what about translation? Which ones do you give?
I've given them all, but the ones I like to give, I like the theories of translation and theories. I really like literary translation because you have a chance to get creative, and a lot of times I have the translation that I'm showing them as a model for them to check their work, but they give me things I'm going, oh, I like that better. Yeah, so you really get a lot of feedback from the students on that. And they teach the administrative legal translation, because that's the area that I worked in. That's the one that I do the most. And I actually have one pending in that area. And it's the one that students start to understand the most because it's so set. There's certain ways you say things in contracts, there's certain ways you say things, and that's it. There's no change, there's no variation, there's no creativity in administrative translation. That's the way it is, period. And in literary translation, it's the complete opposite. You have the chance now, within limits, but you have the chance to be creative with the language. But the funny thing is that we always work English to Spanish, because you should not be translating into English yet. You should only be working from English to Spanish. Spanish is your native language. Spanish is the language that you feel when something is right. Okay? So we work English to Spanish, and at the beginning the students are expecting, oh, what does she know about Spanish? And then later on we say, no, that word doesn't mean what you think it means. And they're like, yes, it does. I'm like, look it up, right there, the person who's presenting, look it up. And they're going, oh, no, okay, it doesn't. So after a while, they're going like, oh, I'm finding out that my Spanish is not as good as I thought it was. But it's a great exercise, not only in learning English, but learning more about your Spanish. It's a great exercise in it. But normally, theories, literary, and administrative are the ones that I teach the most. Are you planning on
I
taking?
will see if I can. Yeah.
Good.
But I already took theories and administrative. I took administrative this semester.
Ah, okay.
But I'm not really learning about administrative.
Can I ask who you're taking it with? Santos.
No, I took it with another teacher. Let me check her name. I have it in my notes.
Oh, her name? Oh, okay. I didn't get any translation courses.
Yeah, it's her name.
Okay.
It's Rincón González. Maria Elena.
Maria Elena. Mm-hmm.
But we are not seeing anything about administration yet.
And what are you doing, may I ask?
Just like, for example, this week we saw about interpretation. I don't know why.
Oh, and that's a shame, because administrative legal is the area where you will have the most work if you work as a translator. Literary translation is fun and creative, but you will never get work translating a book. Not in Mexico. Not in Mexico. Legal administrative is where you're going to get your work if you translate. But here's what you can do. You take administrative legal documents, you find them in English and in Spanish, and you compare them. And you'll find, for example, when you have a contract has the same clauses in English or in Spanish, and it's the same clauses the whole time. And when you look at a contract in English, it will say, this contract is held between, all right? This contract is held between. In Spanish, it will say, se celebra, right? That's how you say held in Spanish. There's no other way. A contract is held in English, se celebra in Spanish, period. That's it. So when you have a contract, boom, right there it is. right? You have your jurisdiction clause, you have your objective clause, you have your recitals, you have, I mean, period. That's all there is to it. So that's the good thing. Once you learn, but you learn more from looking at other documents than you do from actually a dictionary. If you can see it, this is a dictionary that I highly recommend to you. It's Diccionario de Términos Legales. Okay, it's from Limusa. This is the old cover. It's a different color now. This is a very old one. But it's my Bible. If you look on the inside here, do you see that? Every time I learn something new, something I didn't have in the dictionary, I found it, I write it right down in there. But if you have the chance to, if you're interested in working in that area of translation and you have a chance to get this, get it, because it's one of the best pieces of resource. Now with internet, you know, you have a much easier time. When I started translating, I had to go to the Casa de Cultura, to the library there, to use the Collazos technical dictionaries. That was the only place where they had them. It was the only library. But I had to prepare my list of words and then just have my sheets of paper and my pencil and go in the library and do it. And then I would go home and work on it, and the next day I would go back for more words and I would do that. Now we have internet. Now it's wonderful. Now I have my own Collazos dictionaries, but I don't use them because we have the internet. So yeah, but if it's something that you're planning on working on, I think I'm going to teach literary next semester because
I will take it then.
a girl in my literature class asked me also what translation I was giving. And I think she's missing literary translation. So yeah. Okay. Now Xochitl is going, stop talking and let me start. So we'll do that. All right. You saw the instrument was up on Facebook yesterday. I just added a couple of different things. One of them is, what is it? Testimony, if it's used. If it's not used, don't do it. That question is not obligatory. The fillers, I put it in the wrong place here, but that's okay. The fillers after you have extended vowels. So maybe you're not saying but you're going, so I, and instead of saying you're extending the vowels as you're thinking. You don't want to do that. All right? And there's one more, shows emotion. Shows emotion. So do they show you joy? Do they show you enthusiasm? Do they show you concern? Okay. Do they show you sadness? Do they show you whatever emotion they should be showing you with the speech? Do they show that? And in the comments, we divided into what you think the speaker did very well and what you think the speaker needs to work on. So we have the positive and the negative. All right. So as you are evaluating, you will take notes about that, and then later you can evaluate. So Nicole and Daniela, you're going to evaluate Sochi. Laura, and Chris is not here, is he? Jesus is not here either. All right, we may have some of you evaluating and presenting today. I'm sorry about that, but I'm going to ask some of you to do it. Teresa and Nora. Teresa and Nora, can you please evaluate Belen?
Yeah.
Teresa and Nora, thank you. And then Javier and Guadalupe, can I have you evaluate Nati?
Yeah.
Thank you. And let me get over here then. Nicole and Daniela, I'm also going to have you evaluate Majo. Okay. Is it okay that I call you that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. It is much easier than
Yeah, it's
I wasn't sure if they called you that or not. Then Alejandro's here, right? Yeah. Alejandro and Ismael. I'm going to have you evaluate Sofia. Fernanda. Yeah, Fernanda. And Ashley. I'm going to have you evaluate Miguel. Okay. And, oh gosh, there's still a lot of people to evaluate. Okay, well, I'll get the first ones too. Xochitl and Belen, I'm going to have you evaluate Ariadna. And Nati and Majo, I'm going to have you evaluate Bere. Alejandro and Ismael, I'm going to have you evaluate Javier.
Yes.
Thank you. And Fernanda and Ashley, going to have you evaluate Guadalupe. And, okay, so Nicole and Daniela, you're already evaluating two. Laura, I'm missing you, right? Laura and Xochitl. Xochitl, you're just evaluating one right now, right? You're
Yes.
just evaluating one person. Okay. Laura and Xochitl, I'm going to have you evaluate Teresa.
Teresa, teacher?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Laura and Belen, I'll have you evaluate Nora. Nora. Okay. Let's see. This is the problem with people not being here. Okay. So Nicole and Daniela, Xochitl. Teresa and Nora, Belen. Javier and Guadalupe, Nati. Nicole and Daniela, Majo. Alejandro and Ismael, Sofia. Fernanda and Ashley, Miguel. Xochitl and Belen, Ariadna. Nati and Majo, Bere. Alejandro and Ismael, Javier. Fernanda and Ashley, Guadalupe. Laura and Xochitl, Teresa. And Laura and Belen, Nora. Okay, any questions there? All right. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe it out. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe it out. Imagine yourselves right now taking everything that you learned from your other speeches, from your other experiences, and you're bringing it today. You're bringing it in what you're working with. You're ready. You're excited. It's your time. It's your moment. You're ready to go. This is it. You've been practicing. You've been preparing. You're psyched. You're excited. This is your moment to show people what you can do. This is your moment to show your audience what you can do, and your moment to teach your audience something new. Knowledge is wonderful, and once you learn to communicate well and speak well, you're able to give knowledge, and that's one of the most noble things that we can do as humans. You're going to start your time. You're going to relax because We want you to succeed. We want you to do a good job. We want to learn something from you today. This is not just an exercise for class. This is an exercise for real life. Talk to us. Really give us the idea. We want to learn something from you today. And you can do it. You can teach us that something. And you can be very successful at communicating. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. All right. Any questions before we start? Let me get my timer up. Stopwatch. All right. Whenever you're ready then, we'll start the timer.
Once upon a time, a 16-year-old lady met a prince when he was dating with her sister. After the end of the relationship, the prince started being attracted to the teenager and he decided to court her. 2 years later, he made her a proposal and she accepted it since her family and friends pushed her into marrying him. The marriage was officially announced in the kingdom. The wedding took place a few months later, and she finally became the people's princess. But here it is where her fairy tale ended and her nightmare started. They had two beautiful sons, William and Harry. It was expected to be the happiest marriage and family in England. However, the Prince Charles was having some affairs with Camilla Parker and Tigelac Borg. Lady Di discovered it and she couldn't bear it, and also she couldn't bear the pressure of being part of the royalty. That's why they agreed to separate on 28 August 1996. After that, according to the royal family, the Princess Diana of Wales died on 31 August 1997 because of a tragic car accident in Paris, France. The driver and her partner, Dodi Fayed, died immediately and she passed away on the way to the hospital. It is remembered as one of the saddest days in the history of England, since she was the most generous and courageous human being despite of her misfortune. In researching this speech, I found out that she has been the most beloved princess that a country has had in the whole world. For that reason, it is important to know what is behind her death. The cause of her death is believed to be more than an accident. Actually, it is considered as an unsolved mystery case for many people. The main conspiracy theories about her death are related to the royal family, and those theories are Diana's pregnancy, Charles' second marriage, and Diana's awareness of sex crimes committed within the palace. One of the biggest and most controversial theories in society is that she was pregnant with Dodi's child when she passed away. According to Lichfield, Mohammed Al-Fayed, who was Dodi's father, declared that the Princess Diana called him a few days before the accident and she told him that she was pregnant and that her life was in danger since Prince Philip and Prince Charles wanted to get rid of her. It would have brought embarrassment to the royal family since the royalty is devoted to Christianity and the child's father was non-Christian. He was an Egyptian Muslim. For that reason, they could not tolerate that the stepbrother of the future King of England did not belong to Christianity. Some people say that the blood samples did not show that she was pregnant, but others say that the real medical reports demonstrated, and however, those medical reports have never been made public. Moving on to another theory, the royalty is involved into Princess Diana's death since Prince Charles wanted to remarry. 10 months before the accident, the Princess Diana wrote a chilling letter where she mentioned that her husband, the Prince Charles, was planning a car accident in order to kill her. And also she mentioned that the purpose of this accident was making the path free for him to marry Tiggy, who was the nanny of Harry and William. Even though they were divorced before she perished, Charles couldn't marry again in the Church of England since it has some requirements, and one of them is not being able to get married in the church again if your ex-spouse is alive, which means that Diana's death freed Prince William to remarry Prince Charles to remarry in the Church of England. Lastly, the Princess Diana was aware of the sex crimes committed within the palace. In June, Anonymous, a famous activist group, revealed that the Princess Diana was murdered by the royal family, since before she died, she visited hospital and care homes consoling and guest house abuse victims, where she recorded a palace rape victim testimony. As reported by The Guardian in 2002, the princess kept the tape in a mahogany box at Kensington Palace, and the tape details that the victim used to be a royal servant and that he was raped twice by a man who worked closely to Prince Charles. The incidents took place in Egypt and in the royal palace. It would have been a scandal for the royal family, and Princess Diana was planning to expose it, but unfortunately she died. The only people who have listened to the tape are her sister, Lady Sarah, and Mr. Burrell. After her death, Lady Sarah asked Mr. Burrell for the box to be returned to her, and conveniently the tape was missing. In essence, the Princess Diana's death is surrounded by mystery and conspiracy. And the cause of her death is related to the royal family. The main conspiracy theories are related to royal family, and those theories are Diana's pregnancy, Charles' second marriage, and Diana's awareness of sex crimes committed within the palace. Nowadays, Diana's memories remains in everyone's hearts. As she once said, "I'd like to be a queen in people's hearts, but I don't see myself being the queen of this country."
Those of you who are evaluating, it was 5 minutes and 30 seconds. So she was in the time limit. Okay. It was fast.
How many minutes did you say, teacher? Sorry?
Pardon?
How many
5
minutes did you
minutes,
say?
5 minutes, 30 seconds. 5
Thank
minutes,
you.
30 seconds. Okay. I swore that I would be more prepared, and hopefully I can finish your evaluation during class. So immediately after class, I can send it to you as soon as your classmates evaluate you. Okay, so good. It was just really fast. It was really good speech. It was really informative, really, I mean, you really got it there. You had good information, you had good supports, but you just spoke so fast. I mean, you needed to, because you had to give that much information in 5 minutes and 30 seconds. But could you have maybe taken something out and spoke a little slower? Something we can...
Actually, it was more information, and I cut my speech more.
Yeah.
And I couldn't cut it more than I had cut it before.
Right, right.
So I just had to hurry up in order to give my speech in the time limit.
Okay.
And I have my time right here in order to control it, because when I was practicing, I took more than 6 minutes. And
Okay.
I realized that I had to be to be faster and faster in order to achieve it.
Okay. This is the thing when we say your next speech is going to be 4 to 6 minutes, many people say, that's a long time. What will I say in all that time? But once you really start getting your information organized, you're like, I need more time. So yeah. So this is definitely a speech that you could have taken more time on and done a very good job. All right. Great. Let's go then to Berlin. Stretch him out there. Put an extra space. Oops. There we go. All right. Belen, whenever you're ready.
Yes. Take a moment and imagine. You are at the supermarket and then you realize that you are craving for an apple. So you go for the vegetable area looking for an apple. But something strange is happening because nothing is there. So you go to another supermarket and then to another supermarket and then to another supermarket. But the same occurs in every supermarket you visit. It sounds apocalyptic. Well, that would be your life without bees. Most of us are afraid of them and don't realize how important are these little and small insects. They work so tirelessly and quietly around us, and sometimes we don't even know that they are an important part of our lives. As Einstein said once, life without bees would be a global disaster. Humans would only have 4 years to live. Without pollination, there is no plants, nor animals, no humans. That's not just for the honey. Bees are much more important. If someday they disappear, there will be a collapse in the ecosystems, and our food system will also have a huge change. To start with what's going to happen to the ecosystems, we know that bees are the principal pollinators in the world. Bees visit some flowers and pick up pollen, and then when she visits that flower, this pollen falls on it, making fertilization possible. Bees are responsible of the growth of the wildlife habitats, and without this efficient system of pollination, our ecosystems will collapse. A report by the World Wildlife Fund on 2019 reveals that almost 90% of the wild plants depend on pollinators. These plants are the basis of the ecosystems, and without this pollination, lots of animals will stay without a home, and these animals are in a grave danger. Bees also complement an essential part of a complex ecosystem because they are the base of the chain. Without plants, there is no food for herbivorous animals and for those who eat them. It means that thousands of animals would die, and our kids would never know how to look a giraffe or a squirrel. The planet would become a great and sad place. To make things worse, our food system will also have huge problems without bees. Do you know what have in common the chocolate, a cup of coffee, and a mango? Well, these three popular products also owe their existence to bees. According to the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, approximately two-thirds of our cultivated plants used for human nutrition depends on the work of bees. And that's not the worst part, because pollination is not only crucial for the food we eat directly, it is also vital for the production of food that feed on farm animals. The lack of bees will cause a waterfall effect. If we don't have bees, we don't have grass, flowers, fruits, or animals. Our diet will be not only very boring but also incomplete. You will have to forget your orange juice, your strawberry jam, almonds, apples, kiwis, watermelons, even a hamburger. And as a consequence of this lack of food, lots of products will become very expensive. United Nations informs that 500 billions of dollars of the agricultural production worldwide depends on the work of pollinated insects. It is difficult to quantify the effects of its disappearance. Agricultural production will have huge losses and our alimentation habits will have to change radically. To sum up, our life without bees would be a disaster. The ecosystems will collapse, thousands of animals will die, we will not have enough food, and the little food we have will have luxury. Bees are much more important than us, and their size doesn't define how important are they to our lives. Please, we have to take care of them and know how important they are for our daily life.
4 minutes and 27 seconds. Okay, so she followed the time limit. Good. Yes, Nati, whenever you're ready.
Evil is everywhere, and it has ruled the earth for centuries. Even children have been victims of evil. Have you ever heard about Beth Thomas, the psychopath girl? Child of Rage was a psychological program about abused children, where Dr. Majid was the principal examiner of this case. In researching this speech, I learned that having a good environment for children is crucial, so I want you to see the importance of it. Strange behavior, emotional damage, and psychological damage were the effects of Beth's abuse. But how does the family realize that there was a problem? Beth and her younger brother, John, were adopted by a loving couple who had no children at all. At first, everything was happiness and love, but after a couple of months, the adoptive parents realized a terrible damage on these children, especially on Beth. The adoptive parents started by looking about their background and realized that they came from a really dysfunctional family. Beth's stepmother spent most of the time getting along with her, so she realized most of her strange behaviors. Beth used to hurt her brother by picking him, squeezing his penis, kicking him, and sticking him pins. She uses to kill little animals like birds by squeezing them and breaking their necks. Beth's stepmother realized that she masturbated herself. She did it constantly, at home or in public places. Her stepmother had explained her several times not to do it, but she continued until he got a terrible infection and she had to go to the doctor. But let's have a look to the background. Since the very beginning, she had a very terrible childhood. When her mother died and she was 1 year, her father started by having sex with her. As a result, she didn't develop sympathy and sense of remorse. Beth and her brother were found by the Department of Social Service with a lack of hygiene and alimentation. After a while, the step-parent received a call from this department and they adopted them without any problem. Unfortunately, no one told them about their bad background or their terrible past. Beth didn't have any sense of love or remorse. She didn't trust anybody, and she only sought to take care of her anger with the weakest. But worse things were coming. She tried to kill her brother several times by hitting her brother's head against the ground or kicking on his brother's stomach. The very first time her stepmother saw it, she tried to separate it from her brother, and when she looked at her, she had a sigh of fearness. The stepmother realized that some knives were missing from the kitchen. And after a couple of weeks, Beth admitted having stolen them. She wanted to kill her brother and her adoptive parents with the knives. These acts made Beth's step-parents take her for a treatment because her acts of violence become increasingly frightened. Beth showed her frankness and lack of remorse when Mr. Majid interviewed her. She had a lot of psychological problems and she had to do a really strict rehabilitation where she learned a lot of values. Nowadays, she is a successful nurse who promotes adoption. Psychological and emotional damage, as well as bad behavior, are some of the results of children's sexual abuse. Every time I hear about children being damaged, I can't help myself feeling helpless in this situation. Children are the ones that we should take the care the most, and it's in our hands to avoid more cases like this. Let's defeat evil with love.
.448. 448 for those of you who are evaluating. Nati, she was in the time limit. Give me just a second here to. All right. We're ready then. Let's reset the timer. Majo, when you're ready,
Yes.
we're ready to go.
Sí, sí que perdón. I'm sorry. Just
That's
my
all right.
here, and she was like, "Did I close your door?" Okay. Imagine living in a time and a place where every home was teeming with tiny, dangerous beasts. Some new threat lurked at every corner. Asps hiding in clay trays, rats spoiling store grains, venomous scorpions creeping under beds. In this time and place, ancient Egypt, one creature exists that could make the world safe from these little monsters, the cat. According to a February 11, 2020 article posted in Britannica, affiliated with Egyptian goddesses, one of the most popular deities was Bastet, and she shared all characteristics of cats, like playfulness, grace, and cunningness. For these shared characteristics with the feline deities, cats were worshipped. In researching this speech, I learned of some ways in which ancient Egyptians worshipped cats, and how it has some shared features with actual times. Some ways in which ancient Egyptians worshipped cats were shaving their eyebrows to mourn a cat's death, mummifying their cats, and giving death penalty to anyone that killed a cat. Let's start by looking at some of these traditions. One of the most striking features was the shaving of eyebrows after a cat's death. Herodotus mentioned this in his writings in 440, and the ancient Greek historian wrote, "If a cat dies in a private house by a natural death, all the inhabitants of this house have to shave their eyebrows. The eyebrows serve as a visual reminder that someone was suffering. And once the eyebrows grew back, it meant that the mourning was over. Shaving your eyebrows was also symbolic. Just like wearing black plain clothing in a funeral after someone's death for a period of time. Egyptians regarded their cats as loving members of their family, and they treat them with as much respect and dignity as their own children. Another way cats were honored after their death was mummification. As a next step, the followers of cult of Bastet would mummify their cats. The Carnegie Museum of Natural History report in 2018, prepared by the senior staff John and Musica Rosemary, reveals that mummified cats have been found through all Egypt, but most predominantly in the area of Bubastis, and this is the city of the cat goddess Bastet. Cats would be mummified, and they were ceremonially buried together with mummified mice, milk, and other items that Egyptians thought they would need in the afterlife. Sometimes these cat mummies would also be placed in the same tomb as their owner so they could stay together for eternity. It is also mentioned that cat mummies have survived all the centuries because destroying them is prohibited in ancient Egypt since they carried the essence of the goddess Bastet. Now that we have looked at some natural death ways in which cats were worshipped, we move to natural deaths. It is clearly established that by 400 BC, the penalty in Egypt for killing a cat, even if it was an accident, was death, though this law has been observed much earlier. Cats were to be protected and venerated because they were considered sacred animals. According to a September 2020 article posted in Ancient History Encyclopedia, affiliated with the cats in the ancient world, cats were protected by the law. And the killing of cats was only allowed when the feline population had exceeded too much, and at that time the cats were offered as sacrifices to the goddess Bastet. To sum up, ancient Egyptians worshipped cats because they shared certain character traits with their goddess Bastet, but it was more than just that. They loved cats. They gave them a place in their lives, and in their deaths, they honored them with a dignified burial. While we may no longer worship our cats with the same religious fervor than ancient Egyptians, we do hold them in very high regard.
Okay, 5 minutes, 7 seconds. I'm sorry, I had my microphone on during your speech. I didn't realize that. I'm so sorry.
I didn't hear anything.
Good, I'm glad.
It's okay.
I keep forgetting to turn it off. Were you getting more nervous towards the end?
Yeah, because when I practiced it, it was 6 minutes 30.
Okay.
So I had to cut a lot of things, and well, I cut them because I felt that if I got stuck in some parts, I would get more nervous and I wouldn't remember them, and that would take me like 10 seconds probably. So I had to have like 30 seconds at least in case I had some problem during the speech. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm already on the time.
No, and don't forget to set your timers too, so that you can, you know, there you can see the times, because yeah, sometimes that's what you think that you're having the problems with. No,
yes.
Very good. I don't want to say anything right now because I don't want to jinx it, but okay. Do you see me smiling? Sophia, whenever you're ready.
When my aunt came back from New York, we talked about all her adventures, and she told me that in New York there is a neighborhood called Winsburg, which live completely different people than us, who has different culture, different language, different religion, and different ways to dress. I was shocked, and I'm not understanding that. But a few months ago, I watched the series Underdogs and Jitsu. These series are about the Jewish ultra-Orthodox religion. I was intrigued that I'm started looking for more information about them. And what I got is that what the Jewish want is to get back all the Jews who were killed on the Holocaust. They have many traditions and strict rules that are based on the Talmud, which is the Jewish law. And one of the strict rules include what they must wear. There is the ultra-orthodox Jew female dress code. I couldn't believe that this kind of thing exists, but apparently exists. And the Jewish ultra-orthodox female dress code include the head covering, long skirts, and undergarment. According to the Jewish law, the woman must cover her hair. And when the woman gets married, they must shave her hair and cover the black spot with the shittel or the tichel. The tichel is a scarf that the woman could use in different colors and different shapes. But the shittel is a wig or a hot wig. I thought that the women have the right of choose of those options, but apparently not. My husband doesn't like how the shittel looks on me. He said that it looks weird. That's what Judith Kalfa said on an article of the newspaper The Jewish Chronology. Another important requirement of the dress code are the long skirts. It's long skirt. The long skirt must be below the knees and had to be in a dark color, usually blue or gray. And also, they must wear black skirting. According to the Jewish law, there is a part that says, showing the body of the woman, showing your legs, doesn't show the beauty of the woman. Only the husband is worthy of seeing, appreciating, and enjoying the body of their wife. I think it's kind of sad. The last important requirement of this dress code is the talit. The talit is an undergarment. The talit is another garment that the women wear under the blouse. The talit have 4 fingers called tzitzit. It's not a mandatory and not everyone uses it. But the important thing is that the tzitzit represent the mandatory of God. Finally, the dress code of the Jews Orthodox include the head covering, the long skirt, and the undergarment. In other words, it's called tzniut, which means modesty. I have to say that I'm not agree with all this Jew law, but because for me, the clothes, it's part of your identity, for who you are. But at the end of the day, I have to respect and understand what other people believe and think.
Four minutes and 30 seconds for those of you that are evaluating. So she was within the time limits. All right. Keep going here. Miguel, whenever you're ready, we'll start the timer.
I want you to take a moment and think of when you were a child, when you were talking or playing with your friends in your house, in your neighborhood, or even at school. Think about those games that sometimes cause you pain or hurt, like when you were running and you fell, when your eyes were sore because you had been crying a lot of time, or when you were hit by a ball in the head and caused you a headache. Notice how everything has changed. Now, you talk to your friends by phone, you play games on your phone, and you spend a lot of time using your phone, knowing that it is causing you headaches. But it doesn't just cause headaches. The excessive use of cell phone can cause mental disorder, such as IAD, Internet Addiction Disorder, and OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. When I knew this, I was shocked that I even went to my cell phone and checked how many hours I've been using it a day. I knew that I had been using it a lot, but I never thought that I had gone over 8 hours. I was really surprised. But according to the psychotherapist Christina Gregory, the problem comes when these activities start interfering in your life, your personal relationships, your work life, or your school life. Internet addiction disorder involves online gaming, online shopping, which I consider is one of the most dangerous because many of us have bought something on the internet. But there are people that once they buy something, they cannot stop and they keep buying and buying things to an extent that if they don't have the money, they ask for it. There's also social media, when you spend a lot of time checking Facebook, Instagram, or any other app. Actually, people who suffer from internet addiction disorder, their brain makeup is similar to those who have a dependency on a chemical substance, like drugs or alcohol. And imagine having a dependency on drugs or alcohol. That's a serious problem, and so is internet addiction disorder. Now that we just focused on internet addiction disorder, which is more about the way that we use the internet in our cell phones, let's move on to another disorder caused by the excessive use of cell phone, obsessive compulsive disorder, where there's lack of concentration. You cannot concentrate because you get distracted with your phone. There's loss of sense of time because you don't even notice how the time goes because you are using your cell phone. And there are people that while they are driving, they feel the necessity to check their phone, even if they haven't even received a message. And others check their phone just to check their social media. Imagine doing those activities. That's pretty dangerous. Some of the information of the researchers of the University of Arkansas have found that checking your phone while driving can be attributed to OCD, to obsessive compulsive disorder, because that is more than just an addiction. Those are compulsive behaviors that you cannot avoid doing. All in all, the excessive use of cell phone not only causes addictions. We all agree on the fact that the excessive use of cell phone can be a risk for
Did we lose him?
I think so.
Let's give him a second, see if he comes back while I finish this.
Teacher, I think I had a problem with my internet.
Yeah, go ahead and pick up where you left off.
Okay.
Go ahead and continue.
All in all, the excessive use of cell phone not only causes addictions. We all agreed on the fact that the excessive use of cell phone can be a risk for mental health. And it actually does. If someone does those activities in a repetitive way, it can develop a mental disorder. For instance, internet addiction disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder.
All right. At the end, you took 5 minutes, but we have that time out of there. So let's use 5 minutes as the time. It's still within the time limit. He would have been over 4 when he ended, but let's use 5 as the time limit as the time for him again. Okay.
Yeah.
We thought you were so terrified that you unplugged your machine or something. I'm just kidding. You didn't look that scared.
I was scared when I saw that it took me off.
Right. I mean, I thought maybe I just wasn't hearing you. I was just like, is he somewhere? So I felt better when I saw your audience going, where'd he go?
Yeah, I was thinking of that because I always have problems when I have an exam. The previous speech that I gave, when I woke up, there wasn't internet in my house, so I had to buy data.
Oh. Oh, that's terrible. Okay. All right. Couple things we're going to check there, but we're ready to go. So, Ariadna, looks like you're the next one up. Whenever you're ready, batter up. Hold on before Ari starts. My screen is moved over. I see there's something in the chat, but I don't know what. I pay very little attention to the chat. Okay.
Yes, it was a sad
phase, yeah.
sad face.
Okay, because I have my screen with you, I have it moved over here because I have the evaluation sheet on the other side. So I don't see the chat. If you need anything, let me know. Was that a sad face because Miguel was kicked out of the session?
Yes.
It was a sad situation, but it got fixed, no problem.
Teacher,
yeah.
Answer.
Nancy, go ahead.
Post on Facebook that she was on the waiting room. I don't know if.
Who?
Angelica Garcia.
She's here, yeah. Yeah, she's one of the ones I saw. That's exactly why I said, because I moved it over to do something and I saw that she was in the waiting room. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. All right. All right. Ready? Whenever you're ready.
Yes, teacher. Monsters, spiders, snakes, all of those things that make us be afraid. But definitely no one could overcome this particular character, that I'm pretty sure you know them because we have seen them in books, we have watched them in movies or in television, and even in our parties. They're supposed to making us laugh, but for some reasons, the feelings that they make us is to be nervous, anxious, and scared. When we see their colorful clothes, their big shoes, their terrifying smiles, and their red noses. Colorophobia is the irrational fear of clothes. It especially affects children, but it also can appear in adolescents and adults. And for some of you, it looks ridiculous, but this boy exists, and a lot of people suffer it. And there are three main reasons that can explain why people are afraid of clothes: the uncanny effect, the pop culture, and our nature of creepiness. Our first point, and according to Masahiro Mori, who is a freelancer of emotional response of humans, says that uncanny effect is the answers that we have to familiar and unfamiliar situations. As an example, imagine that you are looking at a clown. You know that he is a human because he can talk, he can walk, he can breathe, but they make you feel uncomfortable. Well, our brain is prepared to analyze the people by seeing their faces or by seeing the gestures of her face and body language. But thanks to their weird clothes, their oversized shoes, and their extravagant makeup, we cannot see their complete gestures. And when we see this like unusual because we cannot perceive their real feelings or their real intentions. And this is why we feel scared. But this is curious, you know, because these situations don't happen to us when we are in a circus, because we know the purpose of a clown there. Now, try to imagine what happened if you see a clown in a forest. And if think about it, it's scary to you. Watching movies like It or American Horror Story are not going to help you. Because, and this is our point number 2. Or afraid of clothes, it's also thanks to our pop culture, and 57% of you are agree with this statement. Our culture represents clothes like killers, like children's eaters, like psychopathies, and so on. Or afraid of clothes has been influenced by the situations that we see in movies or in televisions, and a lot of those things that make clothes look like villains all the time. But this image is not a current vision of them, because according to Armando Corbin, who is a psychologist of the University of Buenos Aires, the vision of clothes started to change thanks to the serial killer John Wayne Gacy, who used to interpret a clown in children's parties and that killed around 33 people in 17 years. This situation made the solidified idea of the evil clown and one of the main topics in horror movies and in books. After this, the conception of clowns started to deform and clowns start to leave the good side and acquired a dark side. And definitely they leave the circus. As an example, we have Simpsons Krusty, Pennywise, Joker, and definitely Ronald McDonald, because this one scares me. But the situation doesn't finish there, because we have one more reason to explain, and it is our point number 3. It is because our nature of creepiness, our nature of being humans. The psychiatrist Robert Gizman said that fear is influenced in part by our experiences and by our observations. That means that we can relate or afraid of clothes with some interesting or terrifying situations that we live in our past, maybe in our childhood. The human brain is very good at pattern recognition, and once you have association that clothes are evil or sinister, that association can apply for all clothes. Then, if sometime you have a disgusting or traumatic situation related to them, it's probably that you remember this, and these are the reason that you don't like to be close to them. To sum up, people that are afraid of clothes, it's because 3 main important things: the uncanny effect, vision that our pop culture gives to them, our nature of being humans, or nature of creepiness. However, whatever was your reason of you're afraid of clowns, they always look terrifying, but at the end, they are humans too. Or I hope so.
$5.15. Very good. Very good. Ready? Whenever you are ready, we shall start.
In the last month, I got interested in Chinese language. One day, I decided to watch drama, and you won't believe it, but I couldn't stop. Then I asked myself, what if I learn Chinese? It seems interesting. I looked up for courses, apps, videos on YouTube, but I realized that I was spending a lot of time watching TV series. The results of a study about the effectiveness of watching TV series conducted by Cambridge University in 2018 states that learners can acquire new vocabulary after having been exposed to TV series. I found 3 techniques to learn vocabulary that are using subtitles, repeating out loud the phrases, and rewatching the TV series. I start by looking at using subtitles. Using subtitles in the target language in the native language helps to learn vocabulary. According to Katie Harris, a British polyglot in her conference in Slovakia in 2018, says that learning language with Netflix is a great tool to learn vocabulary because it allows to set 2 languages in the subtitles at the same time. Google Chrome has this extension to use it on Netflix. I was amazed because I could set the native language in the target language, and also I think that the subtitles are pretty much accurate. When I click on a word or phrase, it gives the meaning and some examples. I can even save them so I don't need flashcards or writing them on a piece of paper. Like subtitles, repeating the words out loud is important. Attention from the TV series is important to help learn them. According to a research from the Journal of the European Second Language Association in 2018, oral repetition of words increases the odds of them being transferred to the long-term memory. While I'm watching my favorite Chinese drama, I pause it and then I repeat a phrase that caught my attention more than 5 times so I can pronounce it correctly and learn its meaning. After watching it, I say the phrases to my family even though they don't understand. For example, when my mom says something and I don't hear clearly, I say, "Nishishama," it means, "what did you say?" Or when my little brother helps me, I say, "Xie it means thank you. So I can use the vocabulary in my own context. Now that we have looked at repeating out loud the vocabulary, let's move on rewatching the TV series. Rewatching the TV series helps to identify the learned vocabulary and acquire more. Watching the TV series once may not be enough. According to a study from the Cambridge University in 2004, reveals that learners need many meetings with the vocabulary in order to learn it fully. Another study conducted by Oxford University in 2007 reveals that in many cases, more than 10 encounters with the vocabulary are needed to acquire full knowledge of a word. I have watched my favorite Chinese drama, that is Meteor Garden, more than 3 times. And as I watch it, I identify the vocabulary that I learned previously, and I identify new vocabulary so I can save the words or phrases on Netflix and repeat them out loud. As we have seen, watching TV series is a great way to learn vocabulary, not just a hobby. I have focused on 3 techniques to learn vocabulary that are using subtitles, repeating out loud phrases, and watching the TV series. For foreign language learners, these techniques are important when learning a language by watching TV series.
.426. So she's within the time limit. Good job. Javier, whenever you would like to start.
When I went to the high school, I had the opportunity to know many people. An example, new student, new girls, new men, and wonderful teacher. I remember one of the most beautiful teachers I had in the high school was my teacher of the geography class. I mentioned beauty, not perfect body. It's because she really had strategies to be a wonderful teacher. You know, to inspire, motivate, encourage are the main characters the teacher have in the professional life. However, in the same school, there were many other teachers with the same skills. However, a few years later, they decided to leave the profession. There are a little more than 68.8 million of educators around the world. That means the education in the world is wonderful. Unfortunately, there are a little more than 100,000 teachers decide to leave their profession in the first years of their career. It's universal knowledge. There are many reasons why teachers decide to leave their profession. An example, teachers present some reason, characteristics. Also, there are some destinations when they really prefer to go. For that reason, I want to analyze what are the characteristics, destination, and factors influence the teacher to leave the profession. Point number 1, characteristics of the teacher present when they want to leave the career. There are many teachers decide to leave their career for all the kind of the value reason, not just for their retirement. According to the Learning Policy Institute, almost 8% of the American teachers decide to leave the field each year. Lack of the energy is one of the most important characteristics the teacher present when they don't want to continue working like a teacher. An example, no show empathy, and to have passion are the other characteristics support the last idea. However, there are many teachers that commit the mistake not have respect for the student, also for the assignment, are many other factors. Second point, stress. Probably you can tell me, hey Javi, I don't believe the stress is a factor for the teacher leader profession. Yes, I agree with you. And how an example, teacher Marsha sometimes presents stress in the class, but I don't believe it because she doesn't want to continue working like educator. Probably she had stress is because she has additional work in their life. That is true. However, to show stress every day is as high this something is wrong. Probably they can stand to be in the front of the group. For that reason, is that many teachers decide to leave the profession. Second point, destination of those leaving the career. You know, there are a little more than 40% of the teachers decide to leave the career or the profession in the first 5 years. There are many former teachers are growth to careers in business, journalism, and communication, since they often have existing skills transferred very well in those fields. In other words, the destination could be whatever place. However, one of the most popular places the teacher decide to go is a big company, which gives the opportunity to have better benefits. An example, better working benefits. In other part, sometimes the teacher decides to leave the profession and go another one. Why? Because they choose the wrong career. Mexico is one of the most popular countries when the younger commit that mistake to be persuaded by the parents. That is a real situation, you know. Or probably because they don't feel very well with the profession. For that reason, they decide to go a new one. Finally, what factor may influence on the teacher to lead the career? There are a few more noble professions than teaching. There are a few more demanding and less well paid the profession than teaching. There are many teachers find challenging, rewarding, and not to make out the level salaries and frustration and many leave the career for better paid and better working conditions. You know. High level of the commitment and teacher burnout are the real situation. Also, they are the main characters the teacher decides to leave the profession. Sometimes there are cases when the teacher don't receive any support by part of the school, also by part of the parents. For that reason, they don't feel very well and they don't want to continue to be in the front of the class. Finally, taking all the points, you know, when the teacher wants to leave the profession, they present many reasons, many characteristics. Unfortunately, the worst part is they always commit a mistake in the front of the group. Also, the destination could be whatever place. However, one of the most popular is to go a big company when we can have better working conditions. Or finally, because probably you choose the wrong career. Now the question, do you believe you choose the wrong career for you or you also commit a mistake?
All right, 6:27. I was so busy over here, I forgot to look at the time and cut him off. 6:27, he went overtime. All right.
probably now the question for you. Do you believe you choose? Oh,
What?
no, I'm
I
sorry.
think you're reviewing your conclusion again.
No, sorry. I have the power now. For that reason, oh, I don't know. I don't have words to describe the feelings.
Describe what?
The feelings. I feel powerful. You know.
You feel powerful?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
But well, now. Before I feel scared.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
sorry.
good. You finish your speech and you say, I feel powerful.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Let's get the next one's going. Guadalupe, whenever you're ready, go right ahead. Are we having trouble?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. I'm going to start again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-mm. Guadalupe, can you hear me?
Yes, can I?
Yeah, start. We can't hear you.
Imagine. Can you hear me right
Yes.
now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Guadalupe, I think you're turning off your microphone. Your microphone's not on.
Yes, it is.
It's marked as not being on when you start. It's marked in red. It's not on.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that you live in Indonesia. And today you receive the bad news that your mother died. But instead of cry, pray, or go to the church, you are going to involve your mother and live with her. Twice a day, you are going to give her food, coffee, change her clothes, and talk to her as she were alive. This is a traditional funeral in a tribe called Toraja, located at south of Sulawesi, Indonesia. The first time that I heard about this tradition, I was in shock. And I started to be more interested to know more about this traditional funeral. I started to look for information in National Geographic, Discovery Channel, and BBC, and I found interesting information that I want to share with you. A traditional funeral in Toraja consists in a series of ritual traditions that take place before, during, and after the funeral. Before the funeral, Torajas follow an old custom that consists in never leave alone the deceased, in which they involve the dead and live with the dead. In an article posted in bbc.com on April 2017, Saga Sang exposed how this old tradition is carried out by Damburu's family. Damburu died in 2015 at the age of 86 years old, and after 2 years of his death, he is still living with his family. His son, John Lozano, gives him food, coffee, and cigarettes twice a day. According to John Lozano, he said that he followed this old custom because he believed that his father is not dead. His father is sick. And if he doesn't follow this old custom, the spirit of his father will haunt him. As John Lozano, many Torajas follow this old custom and live with the dead for days, weeks, and even years until the funeral takes place. In a video post in discoverychannel.com called "The Dead Is Not the End," said that the funeral in Toraja is called Rambo Solo and lasts 3 days. On the first day, Torajas do the Mambulun rite, in which they wrap the body and take to a Tangkongon, which is an spiritual building, where the Rambo Solo takes place. On the second day, they do buffaloes fights and pink fights. And then they do the Mantingro Tangkongon, which is a ritual, and they sacrifice 7 or 100 of buffaloes and pigs. And on the third day, they do Asmabalun rite, in which they make a circle and they pray, they sing, and they cry. After the Asmabalun rite, they collocate the deceased person in a ceremonial palanquin called Dabu Dabu, in which and then it's taken to the place where we'll be buried. In Taraja, they bury the deceased persons in caves that are 30 meters above the ground and are buried with personal things in a tautau. That is a doll made of wood that is similar to the deceased person and is collocated out of the cave. After the burial, the funeral has ended. But for Torajas, this is not the end. In an article posted in National Geographic called When the Dead Doesn't Mean Goodbye, Amanda said that after the funeral, families return to the graves for a second funeral called Manene ritual. Manene ritual is a ritual that is celebrated every 3 years, in which families gather to bring their relatives out from graves. And they change their clothes, talk to them, clean their bodies, and even they give them food. As we have seen, a funeral in Toraja is not a ceremony to say goodbye. A traditional funeral in Toraja is a process in which before they do the old custom, in which they live with the deceased. Then, during the funeral, we have the Rambo Solo. And finally, the Manene, in which they see their loved ones again. As we have seen, a funeral in Toraja, people never leave their loved ones alone, even if they are corpse.
Okay, the timer, I must not have started the timer, so we don't have a time, but it seemed to be in the time limit. So we're going to put her in the time limit. We'll check it on the video later on then. Okay. All right, Teresa, whenever you're ready.
Science fiction has been technology's best friend and worst enemy for human. And this literature and field genre has inspired generations of scientists and engineers, which amaze us with their extraordinary creations, but we don't know what is its historic background. But don't worry about it, because today we will know 3 wonderful technological advances which were predicted by science fiction, which are androids, submarines, and drones. The first one is the submarine. Isaac Petzold created the first electric submarine in 1888. He visualized this object as a weapon to beat enemies, and its function was to transport people and moving underwater. But how did he get inspiration? There was a French famous writer who inspired him, Jules Verne. Verne wrote a novel called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in 1870. That means that he predicted the first submarine 18 years before. That submarine was called the Nautilus, which is probably the best Verne's creations. And that wonderful machine could inspire its creator who decided to carry out the project that Verne had imagined. The second one is the drone. The first drone to appear in science fiction was the one who Thomas Edison described in his book, The Progress. He started describing this device, but he couldn't finish it because he realized that his invention had military potential, could be used as a weapon to destroy the humanity.
and at first that was the thing that happened. The first use for trolls was to beat enemies and to use against them. But there was a person who started to carry out the project that Edison was visualized. He was George Lathrop. Edison wrote pages and pages of notes, which with a lot of descriptions, and then his collaborator Lathrop take these notes and start to write a book which is called In the Depth of the Time, and publish it in 1896. The last invention that was predicted by science fiction was androids. Androids are machines that are designed in order to appear as a regular person. And they might have physical human characteristics that infers that might be that might possess undistinguishable characteristics that can be undistinguishable from a person at the first glance. Metropolis was the first fiction movie who predicted the rise of androids to real life. This movie was directed by the German expressionist Fritz Lanz. In this movie, she presented Mary 2. Mary 2 was a robot with human characteristics and this was the first prototype of mechanical and biotechnological science. Mary 2 sets a precedence not only in the training of mechanic beings, but also the development of biotechnological beings. I'm really sure that you have never imagined how these devices were, or these inventions were dreaming up. And those prototypes are real today. And if I were born 1 century ago, I could never imagine that these prototypes could be real today. And I am really I will never imagine that these three wonderful technological advances, which are drones, submarines, and androids, today we're part of our daily lives. And I'm glad to be able to see them with my own eyes.
(6:33), also overtime. (6:33).
Teacher, did you say 8:33?
6:33. Okay. Nora, you're going to go tomorrow because we're not going to have time to get to yours today. We're going to be very rushed for it. Okay?
Am I going to be the last or
Which do you want? First or last?
at the beginning?
All right. Yeah. That's what I would have said at the beginning. So you're going to be the first one tomorrow then. Put you on this there. Okay. All right. How do you feel today? Very quickly. How do you feel today? Those of you who spoke, everyone else, how do you feel? First of all, those who didn't speak today, those who didn't speak, the audience. Well, I mean, even those who spoke, but as an audience today, how do you feel? Not as a speaker, as an audience, how do you feel?
That my classmates did a really good job explaining, and it was better than the last speech that we had.
Definitely, definitely. Did you feel more interested in the topics? Did you feel it was easier to follow them as they spoke? There were some times, if the subject is interesting to the audience, I would look at you, I would look at everyone and see what you were doing, and some of you are going, you're fascinated by the subject, and I'm going, that's wonderful. It's wonderful to see that audience, and this is what we're talking about, feedback, right? Now, let me ask you a question. As a speaker, do you look at your audience faces? Very little, right?
No.
Very little. And you should look at your audience's faces because they're going to give you that feedback. And if it's positive feedback like that, it's so exciting to be able to see their faces and see this positive feedback and say, I'm doing a good job. Let's go, let's go. They like it, they enjoy it. Now, it's terrible if you're doing a bad job and you look at your audience and you're going, oh, this is a really bad job. Look at their faces. You're going to have a lot of trouble. But that feedback from your audience is so important. And I think today you were really getting a lot of good feedback. This is a complete difference. Those of you who spoke, are you happy about what you did today?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little.
A little bit. Tell me, Xochitl, are you happy? Scale of 1 to 10. 1 to 10, where are you?
9.
9. All right. Belen, 1 to 10. How happy are you?
8.
8. Nati?
7.
7. Majo?
9.
9. Sofia?
7.
7. Miguel?
7.
7. Ari?
8.
8. And don't be afraid. If you feel good about what you did, say that you feel good about it. Bere?
9.
9. Javier?
7.
Guadalupe?
7.
Teresa?
7.5.
Had to be different, did you? Okay. Most of you rated yourself under what you actually did. For example, Xochitl, the only problem I had with your speech was the speed. Really, other than that, okay. Sophia was the person that I felt the most emotion from, right? That I felt that was really having a conversation with us. Now, the visual aids, we won't even talk about that right now because we're not there yet. I wouldn't use the phone for your visual aids, but we're going to get into that later. That doesn't count for anything today. But for example, Sophia, you gave yourself a 7. I would have said much higher. I'm hoping you feel much higher than that because it was a really nice job. Overall, this was a really nice job today. And this is what I'm expecting. And this is really, I think, a nice transition from the first ones to this one. Right? Now, the difficult part is going to be those of you who have to present tomorrow. Wow. The standard is up here, and you've got to reach it. All right? But now you've seen what's happening. You've seen what we're expecting. You've seen what makes your audience interested. You've seen what you need to do. This was a very, very, very good example today of what we want from you at this point. And I'm very happy. I'm very pleased. I hope you are. I hope you're happy with what you did because it shows me that you can do it. You can do it. And this is the second one. This is the second informative. So for the third informative, I'm just imagining what you're going to sound like. My job evaluating you is much easier today. Attention? Yes. Topic? Uh-huh. Credibility and goodwill, some of you still need to work on that. Central idea, got it. 2 to 5 points, yes. Knowledgeable, yes. Audience interested, yes. Language, grammar, conjugation, pronunciation, these are still 2 of the biggest problems that we've got to work on. I recommended that some of you still work on blending instead of sounding so choppy with the language. We don't normally speak like this and separate every word, but rather we take them all together. All right, work on that, practice that. But this is a really good example of where we need to be. Congratulations. Now, don't let it go to your head and you say, oh, I did a great job, I did a wonderful job, and then next time, right down the tubes. But this today was what I got up early to see. Thank you and congratulations. That was a good job. This is where we need to keep going. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Very good job. Very good job. I will see you. Any questions? Any questions? No? Good. Feel good about yourself today. Feel good about yourself today. All right? I'll see you tomorrow then. Have a great one.
Bye, teacher.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
My
Yeah,
teacher.
have a good one.
Teacher,
Yeah? Yeah.
thanks for all the support that you gave us. I feel much better.
Okay.
I don't believe that I'm going to say that, but you are a wonderful teacher.
Thank you. You say it to me
Yeah,
every opportunity that you get.
yeah. Well, in other words, I love you, teacher. You are the best teacher of the faculty.
Just wait, just wait. You haven't done all your
Well,
speeches yet.
yeah.
Don't commit
No,
yourself to
thank
something
you.
like that, but let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep getting better. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Take care. Have a good
Teacher,
one. Yeah.
See ya.
tomorrow's task is supposed to be uploaded before 12 a.m., right? Or 12 p.m. I'm not sure if
I
it's
usually
for
put
today
5
or
p.m.,
midnight.
but let me check.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask that because Xochitl and I were doing it, but we didn't know what time it had to be uploaded.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, let me change that. Let me make a note. And as soon as I finish giving this test here next, so the change task, it's number 11, right? 11.
Yeah, it's 11.
For 5 p.m.
Okay.
Okay, I'll change that so it'll be 5 p.m. tomorrow, right?
Okay. Well,
all right.
bye,
Thank
teacher.
you. Good
Thanks.
one.
Have a nice day.
You too. Thanks.